Welcome to our channel. Today we delve into the dark heart of urban legends, venturing deep into the cold, echoing tunnels that snake beneath our cities. We have 3 spine-chilling subway stories that are sure to send shivers down your spine. Stories whispered in hushed tones, passed down from weary commuters and haunted workers. Tales of the unexplained and the unseen. Make sure to watch till the end if you dare. Our first story takes place in the dead of night, the air thick with exhaustion and the unsettling quiet that only comes after midnight. A young woman, let's call her Sarah, found herself waiting alone on a desolate subway platform. The fluorescent lights hummed, casting harsh shadows that danced with the flickering. She clutched her bag close, feeling a growing unease as the minutes ticked by, each one echoing like a hammer blow in the silence. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the train screeched to a halt, its brakes sighing like a tired beast. The doors slid open with a groan, revealing an empty car, illuminated by the same sickly yellow light. Sarah hesitated, a prickle of fear crawling up her spine. But she was tired, and the thought of waiting any longer in the echoing emptiness of the platform was unbearable. Taking a deep breath, she stepped inside, the doors hissing shut behind her with a finality that sent a shiver down her spine. She settled into a seat near the back, the only sound her own breathing and the rhythmic rumble of the train as it lurched back to life. As the train rattled through the dark tunnels, Sarah couldn't shake the feeling of being watched, a presence settling over her like a shroud. She glanced nervously around the empty car, her heart pounding in her chest. And then she saw him. Sitting at the opposite end of the car, a man in a dark coat and hat, his face obscured by shadows. He sat perfectly still, his presence radiating an unnatural chill that seemed to seep into her bones. Frozen in fear, Sarah couldn't tear her gaze away. The train rattled on, each click of the wheels a hammer blow to her nerves. She tried to rationalize, to tell herself it was just another late-night passenger, but deep down, a primal fear screamed at her to run. Suddenly, the train screeched to a halt, the sudden stop throwing Sarah forward in her seat. Gasping, she looked up, expecting to see the platform, but they weren't at a station. The windows revealed nothing but the impenetrable darkness of the tunnel. And then, she looked back to the figure at the end of the car. He was gone, vanished without a trace. Panic surged through Sarah, choking her like icy water. She scrambled to her feet, her eyes frantically searching the empty car, but he was nowhere to be found. The train lurched back into motion, the sudden movement sending a wave of nausea through her. Sarah clung to a handrail, her body trembling, her mind reeling. The rest of the ride was a blur of terror. Every flickering light, every groan of the train seemed to whisper of the mysterious figure. As soon as the train finally screeched to a halt at her station, Sarah bolted out the doors and into the relative safety of the crowded platform. She didn't look back, but the image of the man in the shadows, his face obscured, his presence chilling her to the core, remained burned into her memory. To this day, Sarah can't shake the feeling that she encountered something not of this world, a phantom passenger on a midnight train, a chilling reminder that some things are best left unexplained. Our next story takes us deep beneath the bustling city, into the maze of tunnels and forgotten passages that lay abandoned and silent. This is the story of Michael, a seasoned subway worker, a man who thought he'd seen it all in his years beneath the city. He was known for his calm demeanor, his unflappable nature, but one night, even Michael's composure would be shaken to its core. It was a routine maintenance check, or so Michael thought. He and his partner Tom were tasked with inspecting a section of track that had been closed for years. The air hung heavy with the smell of dust and decay, the silence broken only by the distant rumble of trains far above. Armed with flashlights, they ventured deeper into the tunnel, the darkness pressing in like a physical weight. As they walked, Michael couldn't shake the feeling of unease, a prickle of warning crawling up his spine. The air grew colder, the silence more oppressive. He mentioned it to Tom, but his partner just shrugged it off, attributing it to the dampness and the late hour. But Michael couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching them, something unseen lurking in the shadows. And then he heard it, a faint whisper, a disembodied voice echoing through the tunnel. He stopped dead in his tracks, his heart pounding in his chest. "Did you hear that?" he whispered, his voice tight with apprehension. Tom, his face pale in the beam of the flashlight, slowly shook his head. "It's probably just the wind," he said, his voice betraying his own growing unease. They continued on, their pace quicker now, the silence punctuated by the sound of their own breathing and the crunch of their boots on the gravel. But the whispers grew louder, swirling around them like a malevolent wind. They were no longer faint murmurs, but distinct voices, cold and ethereal, speaking in hushed, urgent tones. Michael's blood ran cold. He could feel the hairs on the back of his neck stand on end. He shone his flashlight into the darkness, but the beam revealed nothing but empty tracks and crumbling concrete. The voices seemed to be coming from the very walls themselves, whispering secrets from the darkness. Suddenly, a movement in the distance caught Michael's eye. A flicker of shadow, a fleeting glimpse of something moving just beyond the reach of his flashlight beam. He froze, his breath catching in his throat. The figure, tall and gaunt, seemed to glide through the darkness, its form indistinct, its presence radiating an unnatural chill. Terror lent speed to their retreat. They didn't speak, didn't dare break the silence for fear of what they might provoke. The whispers followed them, growing louder, more insistent, as if urging them to leave and never return. They stumbled back the way they came, their hearts pounding in their chests, the darkness seeming to reach out for them with unseen hands. Finally, they burst back into the light of the active tunnel, gasping for breath, their faces pale with terror. They never spoke of what they had experienced that night, but the memory of the haunted tunnel, the chilling whispers, and the shadowy figure remained burned into their minds, a chilling reminder that some secrets are best left buried in the darkness. Our final story takes place on a late-night train, a familiar setting for these tales of the unexplained. But this time, it's not an empty car or a shadowy figure that awaits our protagonist. This is the story of Emily, a young woman on her way home from a late shift, and her encounter with a mysterious figure who seemed to exist solely to guide her to safety. The platform was nearly deserted, the air thick with a humid summer night stillness. Emily, exhausted from her long shift, just wanted to get home. She boarded the train, choosing a seat near the middle of the car, hoping to lose herself in a book and forget about the long day. As the train rattled into motion, Emily noticed him, an elderly man in a conductor's uniform, his face weathered with time, his eyes filled with a strange, knowing sadness. He stood at the end of the car, his gloved hands clasped behind his back, his gaze fixed on her with an intensity that sent a shiver down her spine. He looked out of place, his uniform outdated, his demeanor oddly formal for the nearly empty train. Emily tried to ignore him, to focus on her book, but his presence filled the car, a palpable weight that seemed to press down on her. She couldn't shake the feeling that he was waiting for something, his gaze unwavering, his silence unsettling. And then, it happened. The train lurched violently, the lights flickering and dying, plunging the car into darkness. Screams erupted from the other passengers, the sudden chaos amplifying Emily's fear. She gripped the edge of her seat, her heart pounding against her ribs. In the darkness, she heard it, a calm, reassuring voice cutting through the panic. "Do not be afraid," the voice said. "Follow me." Emily's eyes strained in the darkness, searching for the source of the voice, and then she saw him. The elderly conductor, bathed in an ethereal light that seemed to emanate from within him, stood out against the darkness. He beckoned to her, his expression serious, his eyes filled with an urgency that brooked no argument. Trusting her instincts, Emily rose from her seat and followed him, her hand trembling as she reached out to steady herself against the seats. He led her through the darkened train, his footsteps silent, his presence a beacon of calm in the growing panic. They reached the end of the car, and the conductor pushed open the door that led to the next car, revealing a scene of utter chaos. The car was in disarray, sparks flying from a damaged electrical panel, smoke filling the air. Passengers were scrambling for the doors, their faces contorted in fear. The conductor, his expression grim, turned to Emily. "Go," he said, his voice firm but kind. "You are safe now." And then, just as suddenly as he had appeared, he was gone. Emily, her mind reeling, stumbled into the next car and joined the throng of passengers evacuating the train. She never saw the conductor again, but she never forgot his calming presence, his guiding hand in the darkness. Some whispered of an angel, others of a guardian spirit, a protector of the rails. Whatever he was, Emily knew that she had been touched by something extraordinary, something beyond explanation, a reminder that even in the depths of darkness, there are forces watching over us, guiding us towards the light. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed these terrifying tales, Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more spine-tingling stories. The urban underworld holds countless tales of the unexplained, and we've only scratched the surface. Share your own scary subway experiences in the comments below. Perhaps your story will be featured in our next journey into the heart of darkness. Until then, sweet dreams, and be careful out there. You never know what lurks in the shadows.